Session 3 of Unit 6, where we'll be looking at the general consequences of drugs. By the end of the session, you should be able to describe the effects of drug abuse on an individual and then analyze the impact of drug use on the family. Effects of drug abuse. The continued use of drugs produces tolerance, which means that a greater amount of drug is needed to produce the same effects. So the individual or the abusers overstimulate the pleasure center of the brain, flooding it with the neurotransmitters, and it produces high pleasurable feelings. And because of this, it heightens the pleasure and can be so compelling that the brain wants that feeling back again and again. And therefore, the individual has to resort to abusing the drug. What are some of the effects? In fact, drug abuse has an effect on the individual, the community, the society, the family as a whole. So we want to look at some of these effects. It depends on the drug. The magnitude of the effect depends on the kind of drug being abused. Individuals may experience depression, violent behavior, damage to the brain and other vital organs, and then diseases such as HIV/AIDS and eventually death. Why HIV/AIDS? Because when you are addicted, sometimes you are not able to reason well, and research has indicated that most of our adolescents who engages in drugs indulge themselves in unprotected sex, which sometimes leads to HIV/AIDS. There is also the issue of social stigmatization of the abuser, and even the family of the abuser, they may experience stigmatization. So we'll look at the impact again on the family. They may have a negative effect on their finances. Why? Because they have to commit a lot of financial resources in helping the abusers. Those who fall sick, they need to take care of them. And then assuming the abuser is no longer able to work, then the problem of finance becomes a challenge because they are not able to bring any income to the family. And then we also have emotional effect. The family may become disturbed based on the condition of the abuser in the family. And as we mentioned earlier on, you can also look at stigmatization. So we also have social stigma. The family may feel a social stigma from the society or the community that they find themselves, as people will continue to point fingers on these families because of the abusers. And then also it can lead to feeling of insecurity. And family members feel insecure because some of these abusers put up a lot of violent behaviors, and the probability that they can harm some of the family members is also very high, leading to insecurity within the family. What about effects on the society? Drug abuse and addiction also have devastating impact on the society that the abusers find themselves. It costs a lot of money from the national resources to provide facilities to cure and then rehabilitate these abusers. And drug abuse is also responsible for decreased job productivity and attendance because as they abuse drug, they are not able to work, which affects productivity in general. And human resources are also reduced and wasted because here are the people, they are abusers and therefore cannot work. There is an increased healthcare which prevents them from working in order to increase productivity. How do we then avoid this canker? There are some suggestions that we want to look at it from the point of the abuser. They should choose friends more wisely, as peer pressure is a major cause of drug use and abuse. Research has indicated that most adolescents abuse drugs because of what? Peers. And so it is advisable that When the adolescent is choosing friends, they should choose them wisely in order not to involve themselves in drugs. In some crowds, drugs are often part of social events, and the desire to fit in this is very strong. So there are some events, some birthday parties that you look at the class that is organizing it, and then eventually we see a lot of drugs in such events. So as much as possible, one should be convinced not to be part or conform to such groups. And then there is a need to establish positive family relationship, strong one of course. When we are close to our relatives or families, we are able to discuss some of the pressures that we experience from our friends. And based on that, they are able to give us wise counsel. Parents should also be interested in knowing their children's the friends that they are engaged with, because it is assumed that depending on the kind of friends that we take can also lead us to abusing drugs. What are some of the effects also on the school? We are saying that school also have roles to play, looking at the effect that drug has on the individual and the family as well as the community. As a school, we are saying that early intervention is believed to be more effective than later intervention. Most of these start in schools. So putting strategies in place in order to deal or detect it very early at the school level is very important. Adolescents may be encouraged to participate in activities that keep them busy, such as hobbies, games, and there is a saying that the devil finds work for the idle hand. So once they are engaged, they will not be involved in such deviant behaviors. They will have fun and consequently realize drugs have no place in their lives. What about the community? What roles do they have to play? They have to provide public education to the people, provide structured educational programs to the youth, and then form anti-substance abuse clubs where these adolescents could be part, provide counseling services, and advocate for strict enforcement of anti-narcotic drugs. In sum, the consequence of substance abuse may be classified as physical, which is as a result of poor nutrition, loss of sleep, damaged organs, impaired vision, and many others. Psychological consequences also has to do with behavior changes such as violence, withdrawal, and depression. The most serious are the damage to the brain and then death. We want to say that drug or substance abuse affects not only the individual engaged in it, but also the family and the society as a whole. Thank you.